So what energizes you the most right now?
Honestly, just innovation, right? Like there is a lot of when we started, there was the barrier to entry into the automotive space was pretty high. You either had to have a building so you could warehouse stuff, or you had to have capital to be able to purchase machines. Well, now there is a much lower barrier to entry, and the world is definitely more connected than ever before, right? So if you want to enter a space, whether it's wheels or any automotive space or even beauty care or hair or whatever, it's very easy to do that now with the modern technology that exists. And while that can be viewed for most people as like, a drawback, I think what it does is it does encourage a lot of innovation, right? And it forces people to kind of evolve. And so I've personally seen a lot of what I would call the dinosaurs in our industry kind of just fall to the wayside because they just failed to evolve and innovate. And so that's been cool. It's pushed us to become better in our space. And I think overall it's better for the consumer.
Welcome to the Systems Edge. This is a podcast where we talk about operational excellence and sometimes things that are not so excellent. Well, we try to get into the weeds with executives like I've got today, Taylor Smith, who's a co-founder and executive VP of Variant Wheels in Arizona. And we just like to talk about, try to have those conversations that don't always happen or happen behind closed doors and try to help all of us out there that are trying to be better at our operations and maybe we can relate. That being said, welcome to the show, Taylor. I appreciate you being here today.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, great. Why don't you just start off like I always do and just have everybody learn a little bit about you, your role, how you guys, you're co-founder, so you apparently were there in the beginning days with Variant Wheels. Tell us a little bit about what you guys do.
Yeah, so we're a aftermarket wheel manufacturer based out of Arizona, which is kind of an oddball. Not many of us out here. The aftermarket wheel space has evolved a lot over the years. So when we first started, my business partner and myself had been in the automotive space for many years. Me primarily on the marketing side, him on the retail side. And after kind of just dealing with a bunch of vendors that frankly shouldn't have been in the space, we kind of saw a bunch of gaps and areas that could have been improved. So we both decided to partner up and team up and take a stab at manufacturing ourselves. And about 8 years later, here we are. We've got 12 people in employment full time. We grew from one CNC machine, and as of late last year, we've now acquired 7 machines. So we brought a lot of the operations under one roof, and yeah, it's been quite the journey.
That's impressive. That's quick growth. You must be doing something right.
Absolutely trying.
What's a typical day look like for you? I ask that question a lot, and a lot of times people say there is nothing typical about us, especially in a small business. But what if you could give us a few bullets of what type of things you generally do on a regular?
Yeah, so it's my roles evolved a lot over the years, right? I was employee number one. When I started, I didn't have anybody to rely on other than my partner, but he also had another business that he still had to run. So he still has the retail store, and their business model is just mainly drop shipping wheel and tire packages. So when we started this, I was like, all right, we're going all in. And I sold my business at the time and kind of, dove headfirst into this. So starting out, yeah, I had to learn how to run a CNC machine, which eventually I hired people to do for me. I was designing wheels. I was taking photos for the website or social media. I was building the website. I was answering the phone calls, replying to vendors and customers. And yeah, over the course of 8 years, I've handpicked people, whether they were customers, which have turned out to be some of my best employees, right? Because they've just been a huge cheerleader for the brand and have wanted to watch and be a part of the growth. I've also got one of my employees who's soon to be my brother-in-law, which is cool. So
Neat.
yeah, my role has kind of evolved a lot from going from doing everything hands-on to kind of now becoming more of like a conductor, right? So my typical day now is I don't start in the office anymore. I start at my home office to make sure I kind of get all of the managerial type jobs out of the way, right? I answer my emails, talk to those who really need to get in touch with me, do meetings like this, and then come into the office usually late morning to kind of check in with everybody on the team, see where everything's at. But I have a really good solid group of dudes now that have just really owned their role and their position. And we work like a really good, well machined unit. So I'm
Mm,
very blessed. Very happy to see the trajectory we're going.
mhm,
But yeah, I would say to your point, yes, no 2 days are the same. There's always a fire that needs to be put out that's different than the day before. But generally, yeah, we're coming in, we're always building wheels. We're always trying to expand our product offering, whether it's, introducing a new product for a different niche market or building upon, the lines we currently have. So even though the material is raw, it's still used for automotive applications. So we kind of got double doinked from both ends. So
okay.
last year was super challenging to overcome. And it's kind of the chicken before the egg, right? So, like, what a lot of people don't realize, especially in our space, right? We work with a forged aluminum product. And so there's different material types, but we're using 6061 aluminum. And we make all these chips or scrap aluminum, which is awesome. But our reclamation rate stateside isn't that great. So
Mm,
we try to limit how much material we purchase overseas by bringing it in as light as possible and allowing whoever our supplier is to reclaim that scrap themselves. But it's funny. We start with the chips. The chips then get shipped overseas somewhere, right?
mhm.
Likely Dubai, India, somewhere like that. Gets smelted down, and then you purchase from a vendor because there's no real U.S. based suppliers that can supply our space. And we're just in when it comes to like defense contract or aerospace, wheels is pretty low on the totem pole. So it's been an interesting and challenging, space to navigate the last couple of
I
years.
can only imagine. I can only imagine. So, yeah. So, what energizes you the most right now?
Honestly, just innovation, right? Like there is a lot of when we started, there was the barrier to entry into the automotive space was pretty high. You either had to have a building so you could warehouse stuff, or you had to have capital to be able to purchase machines. Well, now there is a much lower barrier to entry, and the world is definitely more connected than ever before, right? So if you want to enter a space, whether it's wheels or any automotive space or even beauty care or hair or whatever, it's very easy to do that now with the modern technology that exists. And while that can be viewed for most people as like a drawback, I think what it does is it does encourage a lot of innovation, right? And it forces people to kind of evolve. And so I've personally seen a lot of what I would call the dinosaurs in our industry kind of just fall to the wayside because they just failed to evolve and innovate. And so that's been cool. It's pushed us to become better in our space. And I think overall it's better for the consumer.
Oh, you got 10, 12 employees. You're cranking out. You got 7 CNC machines. You're growing. What type of systems or platforms does your business rely on to get the job done? And by that, I mean, there's business systems, usually spreadsheets, that sort of thing. Like, what are you guys leaning on to
Yeah, that's a good
communicate and to?
question. So I'm actually in the process right now of onboarding for a new software called Fishbowl.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. So we've kind of had our own homemade hodgepodge, ERP system that
Hmm.
worked great until we started growing at the pace we're growing. So for us, we're on Shopify. Shopify, I truly believe, is the best e-commerce platform in existence. I've tried all of them, and just switching over to Shopify, I saw 10x in online
Yep.
sales. I mean, it's
Yep.
expensive, don't get me wrong, and there's definitely a learning curve, especially coming from other platforms like WordPress or BigCommerce or Magento. But yeah, Shopify is designed and they're incentivized to help you sell because they make money
Yes.
on each sale, right? So, in my opinion, it's the best. We've been a long time user of QuickBooks Online just because of, again, ease of use. But we've also now seen the drawbacks at QuickBooks and limitations that it has.
Hmm.
And then for our pipeline for the last 6 or 7 years, we've relied pretty heavily on Trello
Oh,
for
yes.
order processes. And it sounds to me like, from what I've at least uncovered during the discovery process, Fishbowl is kind of going to be able to kind of compartmentalize everything into more or less one MRP and be kind of like our new source of truth. So that's what I'm excited about. We start that process on Monday, and we're going to get into the weeds with that. But yeah, it's been very fun and learning all new technologies and stuff. I would say one thing that gets overlooked by a lot of business owners is how powerful, Microsoft Teams or even the Google Suite can be. I swear, I feel like every week I'm finding some new functionality that's just baked into these platforms. I was like, oh, I've had this whole time. This would have been nice to use for the last 3 years.
Yep. Sort of like learning a shortcut on your keyboard. Sometimes we're like, what? Control C, control. I could done that the whole time instead
Yep.
of all this highlight stuff. No, and you mentioned Shopify. I couldn't agree more with you. I've used them all, and it's and being in the software development world. And then also, I actually project managed an onboarding with a company for Fishbowl and worked with them pretty closely. So kind of know what you're going to be dealing with there too. So where do those systems work well together and where are they disconnected?
Yeah. So right now, like, let's just remove Fishbowl from the conversation because it's not integrated yet. Our homemade, hodgepodge, like QuickBooks and Shopify kind of talk together, right?
Yep.
But
Yep.
we're a very custom wheel manufacturer, right? So I'm not selling, like, just to kind of put things in perspective for you, because of how complex cars and wheels can be. Our SKUs they can go into the millions, right? So I did a pretty big push last year, and it was for a very small group of products and a very small group of like vehicle applications, and it exceeded over 500,000 SKUs just due to the variations that were possible. So getting data to communicate from, Shopify to QuickBooks one to one and have it in a digestible format that then can be used as like a work order isn't perfect. It does require some manual entering. And then on top of that, with Trello, there are some automations there with some stuff. And I apologize if you hear all the
That's
loud
okay.
cars in the background, but we are a car company, so that's normal. But yeah, Trello, again, great, but there's not 100%, one-to-one sync across platforms. So there's definitely still some manual data entry. And we've always treated QuickBooks as our source of truth. And again, upon talking to Fishbowl, it sounds like Fishbowl is actually going to be our new source of truth. And QuickBooks will be at the end of the line, which is kind of weird for me to conceptualize. I'm like, well, everything starts in QuickBooks. And so now it's going to be the complete opposite. So again, I think it's just an example of you don't know what you don't know, and you kind of get the blinders on at times, and you just worked in a certain way for so long, but then you realize that there's other technologies out there. So
So you guys, do you have reports then that you are able to currently pull?
yeah, all of our
Or
reporting is done through QuickBooks
okay,
currently, and it's good. We also hired a fractional CFO this year, so we're also doing a pretty deep dive on that, and I have a follow up with him at 3 o'clock. So that's a great question that you bring up. Like, QuickBooks, as powerful as it is, it's not that powerful, right? Like, I'm not able to get super granular on my margins between direct to consumer sales and my dealer sales and my different product offerings, and so it's that manual entering between those can kind of muddy the waters, and it has made it very difficult to kind of find and identify leakage. And so that's why we've, looked at a company like Fishbowl, because they're able to help us kind of drill down and really identify, okay, this product for this person actually costs this much. So we're actually making this much money.
sure. So unpack that a little bit for me. You guys obviously reached out to Fishbowl or heard about them. So what made you, or I guess you kind of were describing some of the pain that led up to that, but what did that journey look like to say, okay, we gotta do something different, what, did-
So
what,
we've been on a pretty steady growth rate from our inception. I would say over the last 8 years, on average, about 25% growth year over year. It's great, right? Top line revenue growing, everybody's happy. But then you look at the end of the year and you're like, hold on, where's all the money at? Right?
yep,
It's not as much fun when you make a bunch of money and there's nothing left when it's all said and done. So we explored, obviously reaching out to CFOs and accountants, and we have an accountant, but they're just really just a CPA. So we decided to bring a CFO on late last year to kind of help us, unpack all this stuff. And then upon talking to them, they brought a new set of tools with them and made some suggestions. And so we actually interviewed Katana as well as Fishbowl. And after kind of comparing the two side by side, it just didn't seem like Katana was in complete alignment with how complex our business is, where Fishbowl has more flexibility. And so that's ultimately what led us to, sign the agreement with Fishbowl. Price point were roughly the same, was
yeah,
kind of negligible there. But for us, yeah, it's really just we want more clarity, right? This is a very complex, business we're in. We're buying and selling products to a variety of customers, and we're purchasing products from a variety of vendors, both stateside and overseas. And so then you have the machinery aspect where we're buying, purchasing products or parts for the machines, and you've got inventory items, and then you've got consumables. So it's like, it's no secret that money's going in every direction, but where is it all going and how much can be allocated each product, at least accurately, so we have a true product cost, or what I've learned as a new term is a fully burdened cost.
interesting. So you guys just basically sounds like third party came in and said, "Hey, here, you may wanna look at these guys. This will help alleviate some of the pain points." Because you said there's been manual entry and still is. Obviously, you're hoping you'll eliminate some of the manual entry then? Is that you're gonna be using
Yes.
barcode scanners, that sort of things?
Yeah, a lot of the manual entry will be done, at least I would say 80% of it, right?
Nice.
So the manual entry is still going to be relevant to us because each vehicle application is different. So, for instance, a certain product that we offer can be built for an infinite number of vehicles per se, right? And so we need to know that relevant vehicle data. And that information isn't always captured at the time of sale. It's usually discovered, maybe even after, post sale or with a phone call or an email or follow up. I mean, some of those things are malleable. They can change throughout the process. Something like finish isn't as important to know at the beginning, but we need to know because it's one of the last steps. So some of that manual entry will always exist and we're okay with that. But a lot of it is just like redundant manual entry. Like I need this product, I need this piece, I need this amount of labor. And so that stuff will be completely removed from our plate, which is awesome.
Sure, sure. That's awesome. Good. Yeah, it can be some nice ROI, it sounds like, in the long run.
Hmm.
So, or even in the short run, it sounds like. So, I know setting up those systems, I just got off the phone with a guy on the call, and he's like, getting all the data into software like Fishbowl is really, once it's in there, it's great, but just getting in there is where the labor
Hmm.
kicks in for sure. So, if you could wave a magic wand and automate one part of your operations, is obviously that's the one you chose so far. Is there anything else that sticks out to you that you hope to automate at some point or be less manual?
If I could automate any one particular thing, it would be it's part of the manufacturing. It's a big overhead cost, right? There are robots do exist. A lot of the stuff is more or less I hate to boil it down because I don't mean to speak lowly of any of my employees, but it's just button pushing, right? A lot of these products are kind of pre-programmed, load a part in, hit a button. The programs have been proved out hundreds, if not thousands of times at this point. The nice part about robots is they don't go on vacation, they don't get sick, they don't have kids. So that part would be nice, but that's definitely a ways down the line. And there are a couple of my competitors who have been blessed enough where they have the ability to do that stuff, which more power to them. But again, just something to strive for in the future.
Yeah, yeah. Do you think that after you get, obviously it's not, you're just starting with Fishbowl, you haven't even got launched yet, but are there things on your wish list beyond that that you can foresee down the road, or you just kind of have too early to tell,
I think that's another one of those examples of you don't know what you don't know, right?
don't know what you don't know. Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm very excited and eager to kind of get into this because it's definitely shaking things up for us. And, the last 8 weeks or so, it's just been a lot of conversation, kind of uncovering stuff that we knew about, knew where stuff was, but it's also helped us kind of, one thing I will say, I'm pretty proud of us with our organization, right? Like I was expecting our CFO to come and be like, yo, where is all this stuff at? And it was there. It just needed to be, categorized a little bit more granular. So
Hmm.
I was proud of us in that aspect, but I've also learned even more. Hey, it's okay to go two steps further and, break it down a little bit more because then you can run even more, specific reports. So I've already learned a lot and I am excited to see what else I learn on this process of kind of drilling into the books and, finding these areas of leakage or, maybe some of the blind spots that we weren't aware of.
Yeah, you can actually, at some point, you'll be able to you'll just keep getting new reports, right? You'll be like, ooh, this one will help us be more efficient. And then, oh, let's get this report done and that sort of thing. Yeah, it's great. You start managing with the data even harder, hardcore. Um, so forward 12 months, what do things look like for you guys?
I think efficiency is going to be, probably the biggest improvement. I think the main reason why with Fishbowl, from my understanding, every user will have access. So right now, we have different Trello boards for different departments or different product lines, and each board kind of has a different pipeline segmentation, and those are allocated to certain employees. What Fishbowl will allow us to do is kind of track time more accurately, right? So I'll have a much cleaner picture on actual time to complete tasks. And so I think inherently my employees will be able to hold themselves more accountable, right? Because they'll be able to see in real time, oh man, this is actually taking longer than I thought. Or hey, I need to get somebody else involved because I've encountered a problem rather than something maybe sitting for a couple of days. So I think for me, my expectation is efficiency to go, you know, parabolic in
Hmm.
that aspect. It's just we're gonna have so much more visibility on every department and every area of the business that we tried our best with kind of some of the off the shelf, softwares that were out there. They're just not what I've learned with a lot of these softwares is they're usually designed, and I'm sure you have some experience with this, right? They're usually designed for a specific market in mind, right? And then a guy like me comes in and is like, hey, I could probably also use that. And it's not really what I need, but I could make it work, right? And so I think that's kind of where we're going to see Fishbowl shine is we're going to tell it, hey, we need to do this because of this reason. And now it's going to perform for us, in that manner rather than kind of making something, mold to our way of doing things.
Yeah, you're hoping that it's less of a square peg, round hole.
Yes,
It's more
absolutely.
customizable than most off the shelf is what you're hoping for, it sounds like. Yeah, that's great. So, are there anything else? What are the other things that keep you awake at 2 in the morning operationally?
Yeah, I mean, just operationally making sure everybody's paid, right?
Mhm.
That's something they don't ever tell you when you start hiring employees. You're like, I have a family and now I'm responsible for everybody else's families and
Yes, yes.
putting food on their table. So that part is probably what keeps me up the most.
So, do you use or do you intend to, do you see yourself using AI in the future?
We are actively using AI
Okay.
every day. Yeah. In a variety of ways, right? So I think surface level, I think everybody uses ChatGPT this day and age. If you're not, I feel like, are you even using a cell phone? That's how I view it. It is like a pocket personal assistant. But then, yeah, I mean, we're using different forms of AI for iterations on product, new product development. We're using AI for visual aids on our website. We're using AI in engineering to improve efficiencies with programs. Yeah, AI is super interconnected with our business now. And I don't, looking back 6 years ago, I couldn't imagine, right? I can't imagine moving forward without AI at this point,
Right.
unfortunately.
Right, right. Yeah, it's amazing how the decisions it can help you make and speed that process up and automate things. I know it's utterly amazing. So that's exciting. So where are you guys headed? What's your long term goal?
I think again, probably because of how low the barrier to entry is, I think our big goal is expansion into other markets.
Okay.
So it's not something I was super excited about doing. I really did enjoy the early days where everybody kind of stayed in their lane and just did one thing really well. And you were
Hmm.
known for that one thing. But those lines have all muddied and you see that a lot in a lot of industries, right? That's I'll use an example that's unrelated to my industry, but like I remember when went to Foot Locker, right? It was all like Nike and Reebok and Adidas. But now you walk into a Foot Locker and you can get Vans and you can get other skateboard shoes. But then you used to have to go to like a store like Pac Sun to get Vans, but now you can walk into Pac Sun and you can get Nike, Reebok, and Adidas. So it's like
Hmm.
you see this kind of morphing of spaces and styles and industries. So it's like we kind of have to, right? We
Yeah.
started as an exotic wheel company, but now I'm like, well, I bought a truck, so let's build truck wheels. So
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, we're just going to keep expanding out, and I think what I've learned now is more than ever is people just want to they find a brand they trust, they find a brand that kind of resonates with them. And so there's no real sense in kind of pigeonholing yourself into a super small segment of the market as long as you can consistently produce that same type of result in those other niches as well.
Yeah. And obviously the things you're doing right now that we've talked about up to this point are sound like you're kind of laying the foundation to be able to do that with automation, these integrations and better reporting and all the other stuff that which in the long run I think it's a competitive advantage all across the board. It really is. You're gonna have to do it better, right? Sort of like with the AI. Everybody's gonna use it, but who can prompt it best and squeeze out of it what
Yep.
better results is going to be the person with the advantage in that situation. So that's for
You're
sure.
absolutely correct. Yeah, the AI it will replace people's jobs for sure. There's no doubt about that. But it is opening up an entire new segment of jobs.
Yes.
Because
Yes.
I could give somebody the same tool and somebody who knows how to prompt engineer versus somebody who's never used this platform and just going to type in very simple sentences. You're going to get wildly different results. So,
Yeah. Yeah. I couldn't agree more. It's actually going to create a slew of new opportunities and new things that can be solved. And which hopefully, I think they're saying that more AI will solve more of AI's problems. But at the end, when you talk about operations, you can also see why data cannot be siloed as much as it used to be. It just has to be, integrated just to be able to make decisions. Otherwise, you're going to be up a creek without
Yep.
that. Yeah, for sure. Which you sounds like you're doing a great job. I mean, you're really on the right track. It sounds like, especially for the size of your company, to already be forward thinking like that. Kudos to you. So yeah.
Appreciate that. Thank
Well,
you.
I really appreciate you pulling back the curtain today. You really were kind to be on the show, first of all, but then to pull back the curtain and say, here's how we're doing it. Here's our pain points. Here's what we're doing to be better at what we do. And that's really, hopefully there's some nuggets in there for some people who watch the show and are able to relate. Some of the shows, it's funny. I always feel like, maybe there's not a nugget, but sometimes it's like group therapy. They're like, yeah, there's another person going through it as a small business owner. So sometimes it's a little bit of it's encouragement just to hear the same war stories, right? So yeah. Well, thanks again. I appreciate you being here today. It's been a pleasure. I wish you the best in your business. And if you want to once again put a plug in for your business, where can people find you? And if they want custom wheels and they will need something that you guys can provide,
Yeah.
where can they find you?
You can find us online at variantwheels.com. All of our socials are at Variant Wheels. It's like a little Tiffany blue green logo.
Okay.
Yeah, and we're out here in Chandler, Arizona. If you're local, love to have you come by to check out the showroom, give you a tour of the shop, and you can kind of see the guys out there being a bunch of wizards and making ugly things into pretty things. It's pretty cool to watch.
That's awesome. Well, I wish you the best. I think you guys are going to kill it. You just keep on track. You guys sound like you're really smart and doing some cool stuff. Thank you.
Thank you,
Have a
David.
great. Yeah, appreciate it again. Thank you. Bye bye.